Hey, everybody, welcome back to Cyber Talks. I'm Dr. Jason Edwards, and today we're talking about tracking school swatters and shooters through online leakage and holding them accountable before violence occurs. Our guest is Detective Richard Wistocki, who retired after 30 years in law enforcement and more than 2 decades as an internet crimes investigator and SWAT operator. He's a national trainer, creator of several key Illinois laws on sexting, swatting, and SRO certification, and now leads BeSureConsulting.com, helping schools and law enforcement nationwide. We'll hit the essentials of his 3-day class, what schools and LEOs must capture when threats appear online, and how exigent circumstances work, and how fast identification supports both safety and mental health intervention. So let's jump in. So welcome, Rich.
Well, thanks for having me.
Great. So tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you do, and
Sure.
and we'll get started.
Sure. So I've been retired from the Naperville, Illinois Police Department since 2018. I spent 28 years there. Spent 5 years in patrol. And 1995, I went into juvenile investigations. And then in 1998, we had our first internet predator come from Brentwood, Tennessee, all the way up to Naperville to pick up a 13-year-old at the corner of her block, took her to her hotel, raped her, thank God I didn't kill her, and let her go back home. So when her parents brought her to the Naperville Police Department, he met her on this thing. I don't know if your audience even remembers this archaic thing called America Online. Mm-hmm. So when I teach young officers throughout the country, I ask them that question. They're like, yeah, don't know what that is. So AOL, just to be exact. So the fact of the matter is we didn't know what an IP was. We didn't know what geolocation metadata was. We didn't know anything about eCPA or anything like that. So we took over her account, became her, and then 6 months later, he came in trying to do it again. This time he met me and my SWAT team. So that was the start of our internet crimes unit in Naperville. So we started collaborating with other departments, Chicago, Arlington Heights, Bolingbrook, Woodridge, Batavia, Geneva. And so we started having our own mini task force. Well, then in 2000, the Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention, came up with this new task force called the Internet Crimes Against Children, ICAC. Today, there's over 7,000 detectives like myself. There are 61 ICACs throughout the United States. Illinois has 2. That's where I'm from. And we are specifically trained in child exploitation. Well, what had happened in 2021, and now at this point, I've arrested over 300 internet predators on social networking, gaming platforms, file sharing, all that stuff, cyber tips. And so an interesting study came out in 2021 by the Secret Service by Dr. El-Athari. And what Dr. El-Athari found was that 93% of the school shooters over the last 12 years had posted online what they were going to do before they did it. And that was shocking to me. And so as you look through some of the leakage that she gave examples of, I'm like, wait a minute. In child exploitation, we use a protocol called the exigent circumstance protocol. And what that says is when death or great bodily harm is about to be committed or committed now, we can invoke exigency on somebody who wants to shoot up a school and find out who they are within 2 hours. So what I did was I put this program together, and I took I read that study, and they just came out with a new one, so I can't wait to dig in as far as what our success has been, right? And so I figured, we need to start training to the failures, right? Not to the successes. Where are we failing and not catching school swatters and school shooters? And what I decided to do is that I put together a 3-day program where it involves school administration, being your IT people at the school, your social workers, your deans, your principals, assistant principals, superintendents, and put them together with law enforcement. Okay. So when I did that, it has been a widely successful program. And we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the program. But as far as what I'm doing, we train it at BeSure Consulting. We have 17 members. If you go to my site, BeSureConsulting.com, we have 17 members, and they're all ICAC or current SROs. And we train about 300,000 students a year. And our job is to empower students not to be victims. So here's how our team starts out every student presentation. No one is allowed to make you feel bad about yourself online. No one. No one is allowed to make you do something you know you shouldn't be doing, like sextortion or suicide. I am telling you, Jason, there are so many kids who are cyberbullying. Here's what the new cyberbullying is. And I'll put up a slide, right? I'll say, how many of you kids have received this text message over the last year? And I put it up. I button 1, button 2, button 3. No one likes you. You're so ugly. Why don't you just go kill yourself? And I have anywhere from 20 to 50 kids raising their hands. Our kids, elementary, middle school, high school, they're all doing this. And then the second question I follow up with, out of the kids who raised their hand who received this text message, how many of you know that the person who sent you that message is in this auditorium right now? And half of them will keep their hands up. Our kids are doing it to each other. So we need to be training our kids, right? So what do the two have to do with school shootings and swattings? It's easy. One of the failures in school shootings that we found was that kids are hesitant to report because why? Snitches get stitches, right? So that's why kids won't report. But yet when we see the leak, even in today's news, right? The school shooter, or not the shooter, but the assassin of President Trump, when you look at his leakage, he's practicing shooting a gun, shows what he wants to do. And it's all there, but nobody picks up on it and nobody understands ECPA, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. Okay. So what I did in my class, you want me to go to my slides now?
Yeah. And, I was going to say real quick too, because, you're talking about this thing with kids and stuff. There was just me and my wife watched that entire Netflix show about the mom who was bullying her own daughter.
I lost my voice because I was screaming at the TV so much in that series. We could have solved that in 2 hours. It took 2 years.
Thank God it took me the entire series. I was like, what the heck? Because there's a certain part of your brain where you're like, you just can't believe that someone would do this thing, right? And I think that's a problem with school shooters and stuff.
Yeah.
I think people just have a reference for that, right? They can't believe it. Even though it's happened, it's still, one thing I tell people too, because, I have a couple friends of mine and they're like, oh, US schools and violence. And I'm like, you don't understand how big the school system is in the United States. There are 70 million children under the age of 18 in our schools. That is the population of France.
Yeah.
And so you look at the crime rate of France compared to the US public school system, that's an equivalent. And of course, the fact that you have, just mostly immature children in the United States with, availability of certain weapons and stuff, but they don't realize how big our school system is.
Right.
It's enormous,
Right.
So,
out of the 300,000 students we taught last year, we had 40 kids come to us after the presentation saying that happened to me and I didn't tell anybody. 40.
Because they're terrified, right? They're scared. And then it's a horrible thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
so our mission is to empower these kids to come forward. Like, for example, I was, and this year we're up to 16 kids already out of the 30 schools that we've taught. 16 kids have come forward. I was in a very affluent suburb in St. Charles, Illinois, and I was at a Catholic school. And this 8th grader told me that she was on Roblox. She was talking to someone who she thought was her age. When her parents weren't home, she invited him over, and he was 20-something year old, and she let him in, and he sexualized her. So again, we have to be training our students how to report this and what predators are doing.
Jesus. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring up the slides because it just gets you angry, right? You just get you angry as a father, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. Okay, so so what I do in my class, the first step that we do is I hand out flash drives to everybody in my class, and everybody has to bring a computer. They have to bring a PC or a Mac. So what we do is I give them a flash drive filled with go-bys, right? Search warrants, subpoenas, language, preservations. And I give them the language on what they need already pre-done for their cases. Okay. So everybody downloads that. So for your viewers, go ahead and scan my QR, and you can pull out your phones if you want to pause this or whatever. Scan this, and this is my contact. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm available to anybody 24/7. Whoever has an issue or wants information on the classes to bring to your area.
And I'll put a direct link in the content of this video.
Okay, great. We already talked about my background. Currently, I'm a reserve deputy sheriff with the Putnam County, Tennessee Sheriff's Office. I do everything remotely for them. And when it comes to internet crime, as we all know, I don't have to be in the office, right? I can do the search warrants and do the portals, talk to social networks remotely. So that's what we do. So one of the biggest things that we need to train is that we need to train our students. We all heard of see something, say something, right? That's not enough. We have to train our students. See something, say something, report something. We have to show them what evidence we need, and we'll cover that. There's 5 pieces of evidence that we need to be training our students and our staff on what law enforcement needs when a incident arises, whether it's cyberbullying, sextortion, stalking, or school swatters or school shooters. Whenever that leakage comes out, here are the 5 things that we need, because it's really important that our students understand the time is of the essence, right? So 24/7, we have access to the portals of the social networks. So TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, they all have already set up portals that are credentialed for law enforcement. So in the class, all the law enforcement agents and the school officials will create their portals to obtain information in a timely manner. So when we train our students, a lot of times I have to put them in the thought process. So I was a sniper for 23 years, right? So in sniper school, they always show you that what makes your decision on where you're going to build your hide, right? Where are you going to be able to get the most intel as a sniper? So we play this game in our brain, right? What do I gain? What do I lose by going up there? What do I gain? What do I lose by being down there? So I play the same game with our kids. What do you gain? What do you lose by coming forward? All right, let's talk about what do you gain by not saying anything? Well, the respect and confidentiality of your friend who's telling you he's going to shoot up the school. What do you lose by not saying anything? Well, my friend could possibly die. I could be saving lives in my school. I could be protecting people, my teachers that I love. So do you gain more by saying something, or do you lose more by saying something? And we gain more by saying something, right? This is the mindset we have to put our kids in. Unfortunately, these are the times we live in. But not only is it only for school shooters, we're talking cyber stalking, sextortion, predators talking to their kids, and kids confide in each other, right? So it's also important is what kind of friend are you to not tell a responsible adult when your friend is going through something sort of horrible, right? And the only reason why they're telling you is because they trust you, but maybe they're so scared that they're reaching out for help, right? So these are the things that this is step 1 in the fall of all these dominoes that has to start with training our students, because they're in it, right? They're in the leakage. They're in Discord. They're in Snapchat groups. They're playing Roblox, and they're in these Roblox chat rooms. So this is where the threats come about, and we have to show them how to report. So to give you an example of some of the leakage, I won't play this. I'll just tell you what happened. So we teach a lot in Michigan. I teach probably there 6 times a year at law enforcement agencies. So a Pontiac SRO who had great relationships with his students, right? And he trained the students to come forward if they see anything. So what had happened was the student came to him and said, hey, these 2 guys are beefing on Snapchat. They're talking about shooting up the graduation. So he took the information, got the 5 pieces of information from his student. He sent it over to investigations, and they work with the FBI. and they executed search warrants on these two guys in Snapchat, and they found the messages that they already buried their guns at the graduation site. They hid them. And so when they executed the search warrants, they were able to grab these guys up, recover the guns, and they stopped an unbelievable, tragic event that was going to happen at the graduation. I mean, you had pregnant moms, babies, children, grandmas, and they were going to shoot up. They had a mini AR, and I think there was a switch on that Glock that they found, and numerous ammunition. They were going to shoot the school. And how was it stopped? A student came forward with the Snapchat, and that officer knew exactly what to do. Their detectives at Pontiac knew exactly what to do, and they stopped it before it happened through the leakage. And that is what we have to do. And there's success stories like this time and time again. Last year, we stopped 42 school shootings. This year, we are in the 7th week of school, and my SROs that I've trained have already stopped 14.
Wow.
Yeah, just by doing this class. So I want to kind of do a deep dive into this. So here are the 5 pieces of evidence that your audience needs to understand that we need. And we have to show our students this. We have to show our school administration this. And let's face it, Jason, a lot of police officers have no training in cybercrime. None. So when they come to my school, like when my training, like I was in Fort Worth, after I was done in Fort Worth, they had 4 school leakage and bombing threats that they solved within 2 hours each. And they know the importance of it. So when we go through this, here's the 5 pieces of evidence. Number 1, I need screen captures of everything. The chat, the profile, the pictures, the videos. Screen capture everything, print it up, and make it a file somewhere. Number 2, I need the user ID or the gamer tag or the fake phone number or that email address making the threat. Once I have screenshots of that, print it out and make it a file, because these are the offending accounts, right? Now, I get a lot of heat for this third one, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. A lot of school officials and law enforcement officers who have not been trained will tell a student who wants to come forward with this information, oh, just report it to the social network. They'll take care of everything for you. No problem. That is wrong information to tell our students. Here's why. If the student and their parents don't want anything to do with this and they don't care who it is, yes, by all means, report it to the social network in abuse. However, if you want law enforcement to make this person accountable for what they're saying, do not report it to the abuse section. Here's why. When you report something to the abuse section, it goes to the TOS team, the terms of service team. They will review it for if there's a violation of community standards and a violation of law. If there is a potential for the social network or gaming platform to delete this account for the violation. So does cyberbullying and cyber stalking happen only once, Jason? No. It happens 5, 10, 15, 20 times. So on the first couple of times when you report it, and now on the 5th time, the parent's like, you know what? I'm sick of it. I'm going to the police. They better take a report. So they go to the police. You take a report. Now, this is all going on now, has been going on for a few weeks at the social network, right? So now the police officer takes the report. They send it to investigation. This time lag could be anywhere from 3 to 7 days. Now, the detective who is trained, hopefully, will send a preservation, will send a search warrant or subpoena to the social network. Well, in that time lag, the social network may have deleted the account already. And so when law enforcement sends a search warrant, it's already been deleted. There's nothing there. Now, the only social network that I know of that does this and is a law enforcement partner is Snapchat. When Snapchat does, there's an abuse report, they automatically preserve the data for law enforcement. Automatically. But not a lot of the social networks and gaming platforms will do that. But because Snapchat is a law enforcement partner, they do that automatically, which is fantastic. So, but others don't. So I'm telling school officials and children who are victims, don't report to the social network if you want law enforcement to do the case. Okay. Now, Number 4, if there has not been any sexual abuse or physical abuse, don't do this step. Because if there has been sexual abuse or physical abuse, that victim has to go to a child advocacy center for interview. Okay. But if that's not happening, I need a detailed type statement as to what happened and how it made them feel. It goes something like this. I was in Roblox. My gamer tag was this. I was playing with gamer tag so-and-so. After about 2 months, we went to Discord DM. So when we went to Discord DM, he told me that he had guns and what school do I go to? He asked me if I wanted my school swatted. And this has actually happened when I was teaching in South Carolina. The girl on Discord said, you know, it's funny. I was on Discord the other day, and my friend from Roblox told me that if he asked me if I wanted my school swatted so I didn't have to go to school tomorrow. Well, when the school got shut down, she came forward, and we were able to track him through his Discord and then everything else that he had. So he was 20 years old, did 7 swattings that day, New Jersey, Florida, and where we were in South Carolina, in North Charleston. So it's really important that we have a detailed type statement as to what happened, how it made him feel. Now, we need everything printed out and saved on a flash drive. Not 1 flash drive, 2 flash drives, because sometimes cops lose stuff. So we want the victim to keep one as backup just in case detectives don't have that initial flash drive. Why do we need the flash drive? We need the flash drive because when we go into the law enforcement portal that's credentialed, they want us to prove that this threat actually happened. How do we do that? We have to have a digital form of threat. So now the officer, all they have to do is plug that flash drive into their computer, go into the flash drive, go into the portal, upload the threat, upload the social network, upload the statement from the victim. And with that, boom, they see exactly that there is a threat. And within 1 hour, Jason, that social network will tell us 8 things that we need to have. And we'll cover the 8 things here in a little bit. So these are called, and I'll get to this. And so in this class, we cover the potential threats. What are they? We'll cover the history of the school shooter. We'll cover the most frequent proximal warning behaviors as indicated by BTAM, Behavior Threat Assessment Analysis. What is the cyber investigation process? And we're going to cover all of this stuff here today, just kind of like an overview of what the class entails. So here is the foundation of the 3-day class. It is ECPA, the Electronics Communications Privacy Act. Okay. This, believe it or not, this was born in 1986. So what it says for local law enforcement, we are entitled, and we'll just read it here. If the provider, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, in good faith, believes that an emergency involving danger of death or serious physical injury to any person requires disclosure without delay, Supreme Court has says that it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, of communications relating to the emergency in 2702. Provide similar exceptions for the disclosure of non-content information. So let me set you up here for non-content information. Okay. So I've created a flow chart. Let me get this up and I'll share this with you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull this over.
And by non-content information, we mean basically what, just, their account information, stuff like that?
Yes. So
Okay.
We'll get into this will open up for me.
Sure.
I'll probably have to go to my website to pull it up. I'll list it out for you. And again, it's really important that our audience understands what non-content information is. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. Subscriber information with financial data. Emails associated to the account. Telephone numbers associated to the account. devices associated to the account, history of IPs for as long as the account has existed, and this is going to play an important part, port source information, any and all accounts associated to this account, and any and all UUID or Apple ID information. So let me go through this so our viewers understands what non-content related information is. And you can do this with a subpoena. So what ECPA says, local law enforcement has 4 avenues of obtaining data under this federal guideline. The most important part of any internet investigation, no matter what it is preservation. Okay. I show my officers that when a student comes in and wants to report a cyber crime, you tell them, okay, sit down. Here are the 5 things that I need. I need it right now. The only thing my officer should be thinking of while the student is obtaining the data is, I got to do my preservation. I got to do my preservation. So what happens is, as they're doing the 5 things, they're going to log into the portal, hit preservation, put the account details in, and bam. So for 90 days forward, anything that kid does, who's our suspect, it's all going to be recorded. Okay? Because what do kids do after they report something to the authorities? They will then go on their socials and say, I just went to the cops, they're screwed now, and send it to their group chat, and so on, and so on, and so on, right? So what does that do? Ultimately, her group message is going to get to the suspect. Mm-hmm. And when the suspect finds out that somebody dimed them out, what are they going to do? They're going to delete everything. And if we don't have a preservation intact, we're going to lose it, right? So preservation is the number one thing that I'm training people to do. Number 2, we can do a subpoena on any account. Now, in a subpoena, we can only ask for these 7 or 8 non-content related pieces of information. That's it. Okay? Nothing more than that. In a search warrant, not only can we get the non-content information, we can also get messages, friends lists, pictures and videos, any and all geolocation metadata. We can find out so much more with a search warrant because that's a court order signed by a judge. So that's number 3. Number 4 is the exigent circumstance protocol. When death or great bodily harm is about to be committed or committed now, you can attest and invoke this protocol to saying, yes, there is a threat of violence and death in the school. And within 1 hour, the social network is going to respond with these 8 things. Once the 1 hour has passed and I have these 8 things, I take this IP, I run it in MaxMine or IP2 location. That is step 3, right? So first is preservation. Then we do an exigent on the user ID, the gamer tag, the fake phone number, or the email address. That'll give us these 8 things. Then we take that IP, we run it in MaxMind. That tells us who the provider is. Once we know the provider, we do preservation, exigent to the provider. In the second hour, we will find out where that message and that suspect is. Within 2 hours, we can find out where the swatter is or the leakage from the school shooter. Okay? Now, something really important in these 8 things. Subscriber information, what is it? Name, credit card information, right? Emails associated. This is really important because there are 3 ways we identify a social network: user ID, phone number, and email address. The reasons why it is so important for school officials to attend this training is because I asked them this question: how many of your schools are you collecting data upon registration, the personal cell phone number of every student and the personal email of every student? And you believe it or not, some schools don't collect that data. So in the class, they'll learn why it's important to collect that data. And of course, parents are going to know, why do you need that data? It's a safety issue. If God forbid something happens to your child, our SROs and our school administrators can locate them through their social networks if we have that data, their personal cell phone number and or their email address, because that's how we identify social network accounts. Okay. Now, devices associated to the account. Again, I showed them, a lot of kids will say, it wasn't me, I was hacked. I didn't send that message out.
Repudiation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So where do we look when someone's hacked? The device that connected to the account and the IP that connected to the device, right? So when we have that information through our non-content information, we can verify that, yes, this kid was hacked or not, okay, or not. So that's a big part of our student presentation. I asked them the question. I said, how many of you ever heard someone that said, it wasn't me, somebody hacked my stuff? And I take them through an investigation on how we can prove that they were hacked or not. And they're like, oh, crap. So they can't use that excuse anymore.
Oh yeah, with cyber, we've been doing that for a long time, right? That I didn't surf to that website.
Yeah.
Someone must have used my computer, right? Repudiation has been something we've dealt with for 20 some years, right?
Right. Yeah. But the biggest one is number 5 here. Number 5, the mistake that detectives make when they're doing these swattings or when they're doing the school shooter leakage is that when the leakage comes out, here's what they'll ask for in their exigence or their search warrants. Give me the IP that made the threat. That's wrong. The appropriate ask is give me any and all IPs for as long as the account has existed. Because what we're going to get with that, not only because when you ask for the IP that made the threat, you're going to get a VPN and you're dead in the water. But when you ask for any and all IPs for as long as the account has existed, you're going to see all their login, logout times. You're going to see all their where they were signing on with their phone when they're at school. So IP logs tell a story, don't they? They can tell you where you live, where you work, who you hang out with, what kind of phone you have. They tell a story. But if we're not asking for the story in any and all IPs for as long as the account has existed, we're going to miss it. Let me give you an example. So I have contracts with about 25 school districts all over the country. So my team and I handle all of their online crime, their reputation of the school. We handle all the presentations for parents, students, and faculty. Anytime there's an allegation, we prepare all the evidence for the law enforcement agency. So we're kind of like their personal SRO, if you would, right? So one of my schools called me and they said, Rich, we just got swatted. And, but unfortunately, sometimes in my schools, I have the police departments don't appreciate that the school has hired us because they think it makes them look bad, when all in all, we're just trying to give them the right information. So if they're not trained, we don't want them looking at the wrong information, right?
Right.
Well, that was this thing. So law enforcement, in my experience, they're like, that Naperville guy is not going to come here and tell us what to do. That's the type of bravado that law enforcement has, unfortunately. So at this particular school, a threat was made in an email that we have 2 pressure cooker bombs. You got 15 minutes to clear the school because I'm loading my AR in the bathroom. You'll never find me. That was the threat. So what had happened was, instead of calling law enforcement agency, calling me and depending on me, the superintendent gave me a heads up. Hey, law enforcement's working on this. I'm like, all right, what's the threat? Send me the threat. So he sent me the threat. I said, all right. I said, was this and was that then? I'm not sure. So they came to the conclusion. They called me in, the superintendent called me an hour later. They said they've located where it came from. It came from Pakistan. And also there was another school that got hit with the same guy. That VPN also came from Pakistan. So it's somebody in Pakistan. It's somebody in Pakistan. No need to look. Carry on. Well, then an hour later, the superintendent says, Rich, we just got this voicemail left on our my voicemail machine. And it stated, how do you like me now, mother effers? How do you like me now? Everybody's got off of school now. And that kid didn't sound Pakistani. So what actually happened was there was one kid in this school district and another kid in the California district using the same VPN to do the school swatting. Two different kids. Had they asked for any and all IPs for as long as the account has existed, they would have found out who the suspect was. But because they weren't listening to me, right, or they weren't listening to the training I provided to them, because some detectives just are not trained in cyber, and they asked for the IP that made the threat, and that's a mistake. They could have found out who it was, but they didn't want to listen to the advice that I was giving them. And then I wanted to see the IPs, right? And they wouldn't share the IPs with me. So, it's obvious that, the mistakes that law enforcement makes, that they've never been cyber trained, they don't know how to ask for it. So how you ask for it is so important. So important. Okay, let me go back here again. Where's my timer? How long do we have? Oh, there it is. All right, let me just get into the importance of what the current reality is. Okay, so the unfortunate thing is, I want to use this as an example. This was the Georgia school shooter. Okay, for everybody, your audience needs to know, when it comes to child exploitation online, all that information gets sent to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, to NCMEC, right? And then NCMEC will geolocate where the suspects are, and then they'll assign that case that's reported to one of 7,000 people like myself in the ICAC. We call that a cyber tip. Now, when threats happen to shoot up a school or shoot up a building, that information goes directly to the FBI. Okay? Now, unfortunately, when I ask the question in my class to my officers that are there, I ask them, I have a question. How many of you have ever been on a search warrant authored by the U.S. Attorney for a juvenile? And nobody raises their hand. Second question. How many have worked in operation with the FBI where the FBI took the juvenile into custody? Nobody raises their hand. Why? Because there's no mechanism to handle juveniles in the federal system. So the FBI has to leave it to the locals to handle the situation. Okay? Now, as an example, in this case in Georgia, what had happened was, I can play it, but probably faster for me to explain it. So I'll narrate this a little bit.
Saying that
can you hear it?
Somebody from your old address over there in Traditions that made a threat to shoot up a school.
For real?
Yes, sir.
I don't know anything about him saying any shit like that, and I'm gonna be mad as hell if he did. And then all the guns will go away.
So this dad had numerous guns in his house, unsecured.
I feel pretty bad about this.
Newly released body cam video shows a Georgia investigator confronting both Colt and Colin Gray, the teen accused of killing 4 people at a high school and his father. The footage gives us an inside look at the investigation that spawned from an FBI tip more than a year before the teen allegedly opened fire. We are taking a closer look at that video right now as both people being questioned now sit behind bars. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. Jesse Weber. We've been bringing you the biggest updates from the school shooting in Winder, Georgia. And now we have got some bombshell footage for you. We have gotten our hands on body camera footage showing Jackson County investigators questioning Colt Gray, the accused shooter, and his father Colin, who's also been criminally charged, about a threat posted on the video game social media platform Discord. This was back in May of 2023, which again is really problematic for the father, who's accused of supplying his son with a gun, seemingly knowing that he had issues. But here's what happened last year. So the FBI had gotten a tip that someone was posting photos.
Yeah,
I'm still getting an echo. So if you want, can you just explain the video? Maybe it might be easier.
Yeah. So what had happened was, I just want to get that one part out.
Sure.
What had happened was the FBI got the tip. When they saw it was a juvenile, right? And the tip was this kid is going to shoot up the school. He's already got his guns, getting ready to do it, right? So they give it to the locals. Now, it's unclear to me who sat on that case. Did the FBI sit on it for a month, or did the locals sit on it for? I don't know. So I don't want to speculate. But what had happened was during that time, they had moved from the location of where the IP was out of the house in the one section of Georgia, wherever they were living, and they moved to another, and he's renting a house. There was a breakup between mom and dad because she wasn't paying the bills or whatever. So because the local law enforcement agency didn't know anything about cyber, when it's a month or two, I have to see the IP logs, okay? Had they done an update exigent on Discord, they would have seen the new location. So here is how we break it up in our class. In the first instance, when the leakage comes out, we find out who the kid is in 2 hours, right? Now, the common denominator among school shooters, somewhere in their upbringing when they were a child, they were either sexually, physically, emotionally, or mentally abused. One of those four has happened to that child. And then when they try to go in the mainstream in school, they're ostracized, right? They're beat up, they're bullied, whatever. They have mental health issues at this point. What we subscribe is that when you find this kid, you should really get into a hospital. Or if you need to take him in custody, take him into custody. That's phase one. Phase one is finding them in 2 hours. Phase two is that where are we going to find our kids' deepest, darkest feelings and secrets and messages? We're going to find them in their social networks. So before going to this kid's house, we needed to be doing a search warrant on his Discord, on his whatever he has, right? There we're going to find our deepest, darkest secrets and planning. If that's positive, which it was here, right? We needed then to, now we know the kid's got mental health issues, there's guns in the house, and we need to go after that. So phase three is when phase two is positive, we execute a search warrant into the house, we grab the guns, and we stop the school shooting. Okay? Had they done the search warrant, either exigent or search warrant on the social network, they would have seen the IPs have changed. Had they then executed a search warrant, and my mantra is that when you have all these IPs and evidence that there's gun in the house, don't you dare go in that house without a search warrant. Because what happens is every single time when a school shooter is confronted, did you post this? Yeah, but I was just kidding. Law enforcement wipes their hand and they walk away. Or do you have guns in the house? No. Do you mind if we check? You got a search warrant? No. And you're not coming in. We have to be ready for that in our investigations, okay? Had they gone into that house, not only would they have secured the guns to stop the shooting, you know what else they would have find, Jason? The common thread of school shooters is that they are very researched. They research, and the godfather of all the school shootings is Sandy Hook, Adam Lanza. Why do school shooters idolize Adam Lanza? Because he had a 32-person body count. And the amount of times law enforcement went to go talk to him, and he thwarted all of it and survived all of it. Because they never went into his house. Had they gone into the Georgia shooter's house, he had a shrine of Adam Lanza and Nicholas Cruz all over his wall.
Jesus.
Had they done the search warrant, they would have found that.
Well, how would the parents not find that? I mean, that's
why he was charged.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he was charged. He allowed this to happen. He knew his kid had emotional problems. He says himself, I'm at that school almost every day. And I just want to protect my son. So I'll stop my share here. And it's just so important that we are doing these trainings of our students, training our faculty. Let me hit one more point. That's really important, this whole thing. Another breakdown that Dr. El-Athari found was that school districts were not telling their SRO or local law enforcement that there was an issue. So here's the first question. Based on that, here's the first question I ask my students when I'm teaching them in the first day. First question. How many of you SROs are sick and tired of not being told about threats until things go sideways, and they all raise their hands. I say, keep your hands up. School officials, see these hands up? If you continue to keep things away from your SROs, you are going to get kids killed. This got to stop. The issue becomes I have to give everybody on the same page. And there are a lot of school administrators, Jason, that will hide behind FERPA. I can't give that officer the information because they're not a school administrator. It's a FERPA violation. It is not. It is an exception to FERPA that when there is some type of threat of safety, they have to cooperate with their law enforcement people. But here's another misunderstanding. We always go back to, and I'll end on this. What does your MOU say? Your memorandum of understanding. So every SRO has to have an MOU signed by their city council or mayor, their chief, the superintendent, and the school board. What does your MOU say? And here's what FERPA says. If in the MOU, your SRO is listed as a school administrator, they have access to all data from the schools. Now, there's some crazy like principals and superintendents that won't even let their SROs look at camera footage, video footage in their schools because they say it's a FERPA violation. So when I get those complaints in my class, I'm like, well, what does your MOU say? So and this is the reason why I passed and I wrote the SRO mandatory certification in the state of Illinois. Because our SROs have to be uniquely trained and certified by a national organization called NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers. I'm the cyber trainer with NASRO. So I train all NASRO participants. There's 12 weeks in the summer. I'm in a different state training NASRO every week. NASRO participants or members in every state. So what happens is that we have to, under NASRO, follow their adaptation, which is called the triad. Every NASRO practitioner has to follow the triad. Here's what it says, and this is their ethos. I am first a school administrator in my duties. Secondly, I'm a mentor for the students and the parents. And third, I'm a police officer, in that order. Now, as cops, we know we're cops 24/7, and that is up here, right? That's our first priority. But in the eyes of the students, parents, and school administration and the MOU, I am a school administrator first. What FERPA says is that if he's considered a school administrator, he has access to all data. And that's where we need to be when we're training our school staff and law enforcement.
Do you find that's a majority of cases where they don't trust the SRO, or is that just a very fine minority?
I'd actually say at this point, it's probably a 60-40 split. 64 cooperating and 40% not. And that's just based on my experience with my SROs. And I train 6,000 of them a year. And we have these conversations all the time, right? And when I ask that question, I would say 75% of the officers, they laugh, they giggle, and they shake their head, and they raise their hand. And that's why I have to have these principals, assistant principals, and superintendents. Look, let's take the example of the $6 million settlement with the first grade teacher who was shot in the stomach by a first grader, right? Same thing. The school never told law enforcement this kid was a problem. They never told their staff this was a problem. They try to keep it hush-hush, and this is what happens. When we go back to there's the Claire Davis Safety Act. The Claire Davis Safety Act is running through the United States. Started in Colorado, went to Texas, in California, that they are taking away the immunity from school officials, school administrators who hide the data. If it is found that they hid it, they are civilly responsible to the victims if they hide the information.
But it's after the fact. You should just do it before,
Absolutely.
right? It's I don't know why you have an SRO there if you're not going to have them participate. It's not like this isn't the Gestapo or some crap, right?
Well,
these are people that are there to
look at the Monroe County, Indiana school district. They de-armed. They took away the guns away from the SROs, but yet they'll have a sheriff's deputy in the lobby sitting there for 8 hours. absolutely ridiculous.
It's not like there's been a high incidence of SROs losing their weapons in schools. I
No,
don't think
it's
I've
more
ever
so
heard of a single
teachers.
case. Yeah.
It's more shows teachers.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and
Another
and I'm
show.
sure that teachers support this. It's just, I guess administrators and the way things are nowadays, right? So
Yeah, there's just there's a climate that a lot of administrators do not believe that there should be police officers in schools, and it's a false narrative, and they don't understand that they abide by something called the triad.
well,
But again, when law enforcement agencies don't abide by the triad, if a law enforcement agency thinks that their SRO is only there to hold security, break up fights, and arrest kids, that SRO program is going to crash and burn.
Well, and we live in an environment. Look, and aside from whatever the politics of this are, there's not going to be less guns tomorrow, or less threats tomorrow, or less children tomorrow. Like I said earlier, it's the population of France in our school system, right? I mean, almost the population of Turkey and some other countries there too, right? I mean, and you look at it, that's an enormous amount of kids, regardless if 99.9% of them are good kids. That 1% is still an incredible amount of kids, right? That you have to defend from.
Absolutely.
And especially with peer pressure and violence in movies and the stuff we have nowadays. And just, I know here in Texas, I think one of the things a lot of us parents were cheering and our children were going to smother us with pillows was that they can't have cell phones in schools anymore.
Oh,
so, but small steps, but look how much it took just to get that passed.
Yeah. And the data is unbelievable. The amount of grades growing up, lack of online crime and all that stuff, lack of victimization when you keep the phones out of the schools. The results are amazing. Grades, incidents, it's just fantastic.
Yeah. And the amount of personal complaints from my children at the beginning of the year are up. Now it's just, of course, they've gotten past it. And so it's always funny. Your kids are always like, I would have let you know I needed lunch money, but I'm like, well,
okay, you're not gonna starve.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the state of Texas will be okay if you don't have lunch money for a day. So, but awesome, Rich. I appreciate it. So also, we'll put Rich's contact information down in the event. Also, not only can you ask questions here, we have YouTube, other stuff as well. If you'd like to contact Rich, we'll have that information there as well. And remember, of course, BeSureConsulting.com. So, Rich, I appreciate you coming today, and thanks for everything.
Yeah, one other thing that we do, we know that Department of Homeland Security has federal grant money for each state, and this 3-day class, like in Indiana, Illinois, they fund it. So you just got to ask for it, and it's free. Another thing that we do is that if you want to bring the class to your school district or your law enforcement area, you can bring it. If you want to host it, you get 2 spots free. And then everybody else pays $300 for a 3-day training. So one department can send 3 people for under $1,000. And you just scan the QR code, or I'll send you an invoice. But there has to be 25 or more people to make the class go. So like next week, we're going to be in Gwinnett County, Georgia. Then we're going to go to Utah and North Carolina, so South Carolina. And so that's how they're doing it. If you host it and put it out that they're hosting it, it's just, nobody's got $10,000 sitting in a bank account, right? Especially nowadays. So if we can do it piecemeal, we can make this training happen. And if the host agency wants to do it, they can do it for free.
Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. And of course, you get your frequent flyer miles out of it. So let's help Rich with his frequent flyer miles. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Rich. I appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate you. Have a good day and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you. All right. So that's our cyber talk with Detective Richard Wistocki, which was awesome, by the way. A lot of stuff I didn't even know about. And of course, tracking school swatters and shooters and just all kinds of stuff that's going on in our kids' schools today, right? How important that is. If you want to bring this training to your district or agency, of course, check out Rich's work at BeSureConsulting.com. Links will be in the chat, in the comment section below. And of course, if you'd like to participate in one of these cyber talks, if you have a great discussion you'd like to have, get a hold of me through baremetalcyber.com or on LinkedIn. And as always, I appreciate you coming today, and thanks for everything.